Welcome back to the Just Show Up show. Today is a very exciting day because I have received a dream that is perfect for the purposes of a live demonstration of how to work with your dreams, how to interpret your dreams, how to analyze them after you've had them. So I will preface this and say that I have always dreamt a lot. I generally get to have between 1 and 3 dreams a night, sometimes more even than that. And I used to just wake up with this feeling of like, oh my god, like what was that? What does that all mean? And I used to have no practice before I had a practice. So now my practice is every morning I do my morning pages, and the first part of my morning pages is always writing out the dream. Even when it feels really boring, I try to make myself do it, even when I feel like there's really nothing in there for me, because I have noticed even with boring dreams, sometimes there is something there that is trying to reach our attention. So I'll first write it out, and then I'll have a second part where I go into working with the dream and analyzing it and seeing what happened. So today's dream was one of those dreams that I will also say, sometimes there will be dreams that you will have throughout the night. You wake up and you remember the dreams, but they don't wake you up in the middle of the night. This one in particular, I had it was 3 a.m. and for me it's always the dreams that come at around 3 or 4 a.m. that are just so either funny or scary or just really impactful. They'll wake me up and and I know from my practice with the Silva method that when you receive a dream like this, you really need to get up and write it down and work with it, because when they are that impactful to shake you up enough to wake you up to the point of like it being hard to go back to sleep again afterwards, like there is a big message in there. So this one, for context, is about 2 friends of mine that I had while I was living back in Taiwan. The guy's name is Ouch, the girl's name is Zoe, and the setting is a bus, but the bus is actually a public space. So it's almost like as if it was like a gallery that was on wheels, but it also has parts of it that are a bus. I'll first tell you what the dream was, then I will go into a flow of just how I would normally approach this dream, and then I will give you step-by-step steps on how to do this yourself to the best of my ability. I trained in the Ullman method, which is a method by which you work together with a group. So there would be a dreamer who would present the dream, and then the group would help by means of giving associations and really kind of pulling the elements in the dreams of the elements and the details of the dream up to the surface, so that the person who had the dream could kind of see themselves reflected in the group. But I've sort of created my own version of that, process in just working with the dreams yourself when you don't have access to other people, because I think it's also really important to have a self practice where you get to learn how to derive messages from your dreams. So here we go. So I dream I'm in a bus, we're in a bus, but it's like a public space, a room on wheels with some people at the beginning, and it's moving, but very slowly and not too bumpy. Me and Zoe are sitting on the stairs, so the stairs of the bus where, you know, like you would step down, and we're each doing our own thing. I have my earbuds in, and Ouch, who is her boyfriend, is approaching us, and he's looking at me, and he comes to me and he says, "I'm lonely." And in that, it's like a split-second moment. So in that moment when he says I'm lonely, I feel for him, like I feel it in my heart, and I feel really bad for him, because I'm thinking, okay, he's so depressed, he's so lonely, he's so sad that he would come to this public space and confront us with this. And then I look at Zoe, and we have this split-second moment where we just look at each other, and we also both feel it in our hearts, and we look at him and we know in an instant what we need to do. So we both get up and we walk over to him, and we're about to go and hug him, but then she somehow moves around because she's a performance artist, and all of a sudden this thing is a performance, and he's starting to kind of blame her, and he doesn't want the hug. So when we approach him with the hug, he kind of like rejects the hug, he rejects the love and the care, and he starts blaming, and he's like, now I'm gonna make this everyone's business, you know, I'm gonna tell everyone what she did to me in the relationship, because they're not together anymore. But basically he's trying to kind of really instigate everyone seeing how much of a bad guy she was. And at the same time, she then starts telling the audience that, you know, he would really like physically abuse her, and he would take paper. I don't know if you know this, but when you take paper and you cut this part, like it can really be sharp. And then someone from the audience kind of says, but is the paper really sharp? And then there's a second scene after this where me and Zoe are in the front of the bus, and we're sitting there. I again have my earbuds in, as I did in the first scene. I have my earbuds in, and I'm just sitting there and kind of like avoiding the whole drama in the back. And there's a female kind of student reporter, and she leans in to my ear and she just asks the question, do you wash your hair? Like very seriously, as if it's like part of her reporting on this story. And me and Zoe just look at each other, and we just start laughing. And then the people in the back of the bus, they can hear us laughing, like really cracking up about this question, like, do you wash your hair? And then we're saying like, do you wash your hair? Like, that sounds like Pretty Woman, you know, it sounds like a movie that Jessica Roberts would be in. And then we look at each other and we say, Jessica? No, Julia. It's Julia Roberts. Do you wash your hair with Julia Roberts? And then we continue giggling and laughing. And then the reporter leans in again, and she noticed. So the whole time that I was sitting in the front of the bus, I had, every once in a while, a tear would drop from my eye. And then she leaned in again and she said, was this the fourth tear that just dropped from your eye? And I look at her and I'm kind of thinking like, was it the fourth one or was it the fifth one? And that's where the dream ends. So now what I would normally do is that I would go into the dream and I would look for what stands out to me, just instinctively, intuitively. What are the elements? What are the details of the movie that really, the movie, I always call it a movie. I really always call it a movie accidentally, and it even happened last night when I woke up at 3 a.m. I was like, I need to write this movie down. So anyway, you would look for the elements. So what stands out to me, the first thing immediately is the ridiculousness of this question. Do you wash your hair? It's complete nonsense. So what does she mean? Like, why is she asking me this? Is it just a nonsensical question? Does it have deeper meaning? I don't know yet at this point, but that's kind of like the first element that I would almost put at the top. And I sometimes like to even like spatially arrange them in my mind. So that question. The other thing that really stands out to me is usually the setting has a lot of meaning. So it being a gallery and it being a bus at the same time, the free association that I have with that, and also from prior experience, is just that it's a public space. And it's not just one time public as a bus would be or as a gallery would be, but it's a double public. So he's really trying to make it like extra public. Then there's the fact that I am involved in a relationship that I'm not part of. Like, why is he making this my business? Also, why is he coming to me? Would be a question that I would ask myself. she's his ex-girlfriend. Why is he coming to me? Why am I even in this setting? So that tells me a lot as well. And then the reporter, the journalist coming to ask me, which means that I'm becoming a public person. So now other people's business is somehow my responsibility too, in just being a part of it. Like I am somehow being the authority that is being asked questions about what happened about this thing that I was part of. And then the thing that also stood out to me is when he comes to me, there's a thought process in the dream as well. So the first thing, he's coming to me, I feel empathy for him, and I feel like, oh my God, I feel so sorry for this guy. I want to go and, you know, like comfort him. But then I also have this thought process behind it. When he says I'm lonely, I think to myself, well, God damn it, I'm lonely too. You know, I've been lonely so much of my life, but I don't go around making this other people's business. You know, I don't make this anyone else's responsibility. Like, this is so childish. And there's a part of me in the dream that just feels like, oh man, like I have to go and like mother this grown man child. Like, come on. And so that would be like the first part. And then after I've kind of laid out these elements or these impulses that I have about the dream, then I would think to myself, okay, if I had to like put it into one sentence, what do I think this dream is about? So in this case, I can see very clearly from these elements that this dream is telling me about the fact that I feel conflicted about this thing that I'm witnessing at the moment, which is men coming out and saying that they're lonely and that they're sad and they're hurting, and at the same time women kind of being like, oh come on, like this is not my business, this is not my fault, this is not my business. But at the same time there's an empathy and a compassion there that, you know, it's just on a human to human level that we do feel. And at the same time there's a conflict because the men, this guy especially, coming to us wanting comfort, but then when we offer the comfort, he blames and deflects and doesn't want to receive it and just wants to turn it into a blame game. And so I'm thinking, and this is the thing, like I'm trying to speak fast for the sake of this video, but it is a slow process. It is a process that I'm greatly speeding up now, but when you are writing about it, you see that ideas will come to you and you'll start connecting the dots, you know, with all these different elements. And you'll see, the other thing that I forgot to mention, which is really important, is how do you feel in the dream? What are the feelings? How are the feelings changing throughout the dream, right? So I have like the feeling of compassion, I have the feeling of feeling sorry for this guy, and at the same time I also feel like I want to make this emotionless in some way, just because I feel like, come on, this is not practical. This is not the way that I've dealt with my loneliness. Like, why are you making this everyone's business? Why are you making this a public scene? And it's really interesting because I think I'm dealing with the theme of being public and being someone in the space of emotional healing. And I'm kind of wanting to ignore this issue because it feels really complicated. And that's why when I'm in the front of the front of the bus in that scene, I'm like having my earbuds in. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to engage with it. I want to turn my back to it. That's the other thing too. Like, how is your body positioned in the dream? What are you showing with your body language about how you feel about what you're being presented with? And maybe now it's coming to me too, do you wash your hair? It's such a personal question too. It's like, what does it mean? Like, are you accusing me? Are you saying my hair looks dirty? Like, why are you questioning if I'm washing my hair? And why is such an arbitrary detail about my personal hygiene suddenly a part of this greater story, right? And I think that is my deep fear about being public, or, you know, like being celebrity or whatever that would be. Like when you start operating at a very high level, then suddenly you become famous. And I think I'm on that level, I'm very scared of fame, because I'm like, this is just gonna dilute the conversation. Like this, whether I wash my hair or not has nothing to do with this conversation. Like, why is she asking these stupid questions? So maybe that's what it's about. Like, and the dream usually will just be showing you what is happening. Like sometimes we think that there are messages, but the dream is usually just presenting you with what you're preoccupied with, and it's showing you the preoccupation or the situation from all different angles, so that you can kind of get more information on it, so that you can get clearer on how you feel about it. And then once you know better how you feel about it, you just kind of have like the next step. And then, you know, especially with the frequency of dreams being every night, the same theme, the same preoccupation gets worked and reworked and reworked, and there's usually always new details. So that's another thing to keep in mind too, like context, like what's happening in my life around this time that I'm having this dream. Like, what was I thinking about yesterday? What, you know, video did I watch that could have prompted this? What was the conversation with my friend? What was I thinking about throughout my day? And there could also be, does this dream relate to a recurring dream? Is this a recurring theme that I'm having? Like for me, absolutely, 1000%. It's always like, I'd say like freaking 90% of my dreams have to do with men. It's always about the conflict in relationship. And then what else? The other thing that's also really important and interesting and can sometimes be a little bit hard to navigate is the order of things, the sequencing. So what happens first in the dream, and then what happens, and then what happens? Like, what's the chronology of the things that happen in the dream? And sometimes the dream can read chronologically, and sometimes it can also flip itself around and actually go from the end towards the beginning. So that's another thing too, that the more you work with dreams, the more you will see, you know, what the logic of your dreams is. So that's about it. I don't want to make this like too crazy long, but this is like a very short demonstration of how I work with my dreams, with this dream in particular. So you've seen like how quick and intuitive this can be once you've actually practiced this enough. And I will say that I have done this with one client in particular. We worked together for 1 year. When we first started out, she could not remember her dreams at all. And all you need really, if you're not remembering your dreams, is just to set the intention. And usually what it means when you cannot remember your dreams is that you're out of touch with your soul. And I know this sounds brutal, but it's really true. Once we started putting in the intention of like, my inner life matters, and dreams are a big part of your inner life. Dreams are a big part of you being in conversation with your inner life and how you feel, and also like feeling like I'm important. My inner life, how I feel about things, what I think matters. So once that intention is there and you just say, okay, I am going to remember my dreams, because you do dream every night. It's just a matter of remembering what happened, and then really kind of installing the habit of like, when I have a dream, I write it down immediately. First thing I do when I wake up, eyes open, pen to paper. And if you get distracted, like, don't worry about it, you know, like you just stare out blankly into the air, come back, write. And this client in particular, she started out, she couldn't remember her dreams, and over the course of the year, she slowly started remembering them. She started bringing them into the sessions, and we started working with her dreams. And by the end of it, she was really fully equipped to learn from her dreams and to receive messages, and the messages became so beautiful, and she could really see, she could see it with her own eyes completely without my help towards the end. So it's a practice very, very well worth having. And if there are any questions that you have that I didn't cover in this very intuitive demonstration, please let me know. And I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you soon for more videos.